augmenting human cognition with interactive digital textbook using large language models and image generation models. So this work was done together with Hugo Morita when he's coming to DFKI as an exchange from Hosei University, and within 1 year he did this work, which is impressive for me. And the other co-author is Jinja Zhou, Andreas Stengel, Shoei Shimaru, all from Japan and Germany. Yeah, I think all of you here would agree with me that reading is a fundamental cognitive activity. So you read a scientific paper every day to understand new knowledge, and also even when you're young, trying to learn new languages, you always do something with reading. So reading is fundamental. However, I'm not sure if people will agree, but lack of personalization are still there. So you see a book in a bookstore that has everything same, and then they deliver it to you the same, but maybe personalization can be happening, right? Another thing would be text-only interaction. So people prefer different modalities, but we still have only text scenarios, so can we tackle on that? Last but not least, if you want to do that, high visual production cost, so if you want to make an image for each text, then you need a designer in addition. But yeah, very happy. Now we have GenAI, which can help these kind of things. So personalization, so depending on who are reading, we can do something different using GenAI, multimodal integration, and also a low production because we run some computational system that helps us to generate each images and so on. I do have several questions in my paper, but let's say, because to make it simple, so research question, how do GenAI support reading cognitive augmentation? This is a very important topic, so I would like to highlight this as a research question. Related work, I highlighted 2 papers for this presentation. So Augmented Humans 2021, there was a paper from my supervisor, Shoei Shimaru. So what he did is that text summary augmentation for intelligent reading assistant. What he did in his research is that from the document, he used the Wikipedia API to get some additional information related to that document, so that the person will have additional information, not only from the document that you see. Then what happens is that, yeah, so summarization in reading, or if you get some additional information, the reading experience will be more enhanced. And this is the surprising part. So another paper is from Hassan's social media chair. So Augmented Humans 2022. So she did really nice work, which I really like it. So what she did is that she compares some selective media type for memory cues. So if you have different modalities, like I said, text, photos, videos, abstract audio, bioscience, those different interactions will have advantage and disadvantage. So as you can imagine, if you have different GenAI using image, audio, text, that has different advantage and disadvantage. So that, yeah, like she discovered here, modality difference in memory queue. So we definitely need to know what kind of modalities can help people individually. So the methodologies are here. So simply what we did here is that we prepare some document that we want people to read, and then use different modalities such as text summaries generation, image generation, and image selection, which I will explain in detail. But before people asking me questions, I would say, why did you use story generation instead of existing novels? It's because we want to equalize the level of understanding of document. So if, for example, someone reads the fairy tale beforehand and then he reads it in the experiment, then that person already knows the story, so the question, which we will do in the post questions, they might have a higher score, so we want to avoid that, so that to do that, we will make a story from scratch, and that story generation AI will help us, so we decided that way. Yeah, so here's the simple flow of how we generate the prompt, generate the story. So we prepare some story prompt, which is written in the paper, so you can also check. And then we get the title and content JSON file, and then we apply program prompt to create 10 questions for each document. Yeah, so I think this is the interesting part. So we have 4 reading conditions. The first one is baseline. The baseline is easy to imagine. So like I said in the introduction, imagine you have just the text in the document. So like this. I think for some people it's very interesting because you can read the text and have an imagination, but yeah. Another thing would be condition 2, IGMai. So how we did it? I think this is one of the interesting parts. We kind of struggle about doing try and error. So how can we keep the image style same for the whole story? So how we did that? We used style encoder and diffusion models. We put the first image, put it in style encoder, and then we put the sentence inside together so that we can generate some similar characteristic image. And then we use that image in the next sentence to put it into the style encoder, and then put that third sentence inside together into diffusion model so that time sequential image can be made. So one by one generation. This is the example of UI. So how the system works is that if you hover the cursor on top of the sentence, then the image will appear. So a person who's reading that sentence can put their cursor on top and then see the sentence and image together so that people can try to memorize the thing better. Another thing is GenAI summaries. So like I said, my supervisor Shoya has worked on this field, but summarization is very powerful. So we definitely want to try to compare with generative AI of images. So how we did it? So we have the title and content in JSON like I explained previously, but we also have a summary prompt, which will help us make a summary of this text. Here's an example. So you have the summary on top of this document, which is generated according to the document on the below. Last but not least, IGMs summary. So we also wanted to compare if the image summary can help understanding better. To do that, we use a clip score. So I'm not so sure if people are familiar with clip score, but often used in computer vision field. So clip score basically has the score comparing text and image to understand if this image is really correlated to the text. And we try to put whole documents inside the this selector, and then put all the images generated, like I explained previously, and see which top 5 images are mostly related to this document itself. Here's the example. So the function of image that are presented on the right is still there, so you can still use that. But most important thing in this condition is that you have the image on top that is summarized. So I think it's easy to imagine, but it's like a manga that you have step-by-step images, so people can understand the flow by intuition. We did some data collection, so we had some 24 participants, 6 groups in a pair. So because I explained some conditions, right? So we did some different orders or different types of documents in order to make it fair. We did that, and also diverse national backgrounds, including Eastern Europe, South Asia, East Asia, Middle East, South America, and North America. Although, yeah, true, 24 participants are not enough, but we tried to collect quite a lot of diverse people from outside Germany. Yeah, and we did some pre and post questions, but to be simple, I think these are the questions I want you to understand. So what we ask in this post question is that which textbook did you find most interesting, and which text actually helped you aid in memorization. So the result was here. So by looking at the post question score, so we found that GenAI summary, which is having an image on top and also having the hover function, had the highest score compared to the web baseline. So our assumption of having some GenAI integration can do support people to memorize or understand the text better. But I don't want to highlight this result more because the next slide is actually interesting for me, and I want to talk about in the future more, is that preference is correlated with the comprehension score. So like you see here, in general, IGMI summary was the best performance, but if I compare the people with preferred text and preferred image, they had slightly different results. So on the left is the one who prefers text. They had the baseline higher score than the image, which means that if you have GenAI that put image, that can be a noise for the person to distract understanding the text. And then the other one would be the one who preferred image was obviously having better score with image. So I would really like to discuss something like how can we who are the image preference and text preference, that kind of sort of stuff. And in fact, we did some eye tracking study also, and did found that verbal thinker, I don't know if this definition is better, but the one who doesn't prefer image did not look at the image at all, and they just focus on document. But visual thinker was obviously using the image efficiently, trying to understand the document from the image. So yeah, case by case, this augmentation can be a noise and can be a strength. Yeah, so the conclusion is here. So we compare 4 types of reading conditions, baseline, IGMAI, TGMAI summary, IGMAI summary. And overall, in general, IGMAI summary performed the best. However, as I highlight, depending on the person, like augmentation can be a noise and can be a strength, which is a high potential in augmentation in the future, which we want to really understand human in that way. Yeah, and yeah, so as I want to control this experiment, we didn't do this image generation in real time, so it's like pre-generated images presented, but we also want to do some real-time image generation in textbook, which can be a challenge because GenAI doesn't have a consistent generation at the moment, so sometimes they generate different images if you hover, so I don't know if this real-time image generation can work. But I see some of the papers in CVPR and so on that do flow matching of the image generation. So I'm looking at those papers, how we can integrate this generative document in the future. Yeah, so here are the authors, and thank you for listening.